What's going down, y'all? Listen, Errol Spence, Lamont Peterson fight going down tonight. Just giving y'all my predictions on the fight tonight. I got Errol Spence stopping Lamont in 8 rounds. 8 exciting rounds of boxing tonight, in which Errol Spence will stop Lamont Peterson. I just think he's too much of a dog. He's going to attack that body from the opening bell, catch up to Lamont in about 5 rounds, and then get him out of there in 8. That's my predictions. I think the best rounds of the fight are going to be from rounds 3 through 5, where Spence finally catches up with Lamont, and Lamont is starting to slow down around 4, 5, and not really having anywhere to go, and going to have to be forced to stand in front of that man and fight, or learn to fight Spence off the ropes. And he's going to put up a valiant effort, but in the end, I think 6, 7, and 8, it's going to be too much for him, and Spence is going to break him down and get him out of there. I think the first couple of rounds will play in the favor of Peterson, because he's a crafty veteran, knows how to box. I love Lamont Peterson, one of my favorite fighters. Just don't have the power, I believe, to keep an angry, young, hungry lion, dog, whatever you monster, beast, whatever you want to call EJ. It's just not going to be enough power on Lamont's end to keep that man off of him. And like I said, I think he'll use the ring beautifully in the first few rounds, and probably look real sharp against Earl earlier. That may have some people that don't know boxing scratching their heads. But I guarantee you that, those tap-ins to the body that EJ's going to give him is going to slow him down by 5. I just don't see him having enough in the tank to keep that man off of him, and he's going to be out of there in about 8 rounds. I would be very surprised if this fight goes the distance. I know these guys have a friendship and mutual respect for each other, but I could tell by the press conference, especially on Errol Spence's part, he's here to take care of business. All that friend stuff got to be pushed to the side for now. This is a business. We still can be friends, go grab something to eat and kick it after the fight and enjoy our earnings, because they're going to get decent paydays. But at the end of the day, this is a business. He's made it clear that he's here to take over the 147 division. He wants those belts from Thurman, and he wants that belt from Horn, or if Crawford gets it, he's going to want that belt. And he wants to dominate. And I believe the man can. For him to go across the pond and do what he did to Kell Brook in his own backyard, break that man down. And let's get something clear, everybody. I was in a debate not too long ago. The man was talking, Errol Spence didn't really do nothing against Kell Brook. He got lucky in that fight. If he hadn't hurt his eye, he would have lost that fight. Now, I watched that fight several times. Kell Brook was doing his thing in the first half of that fight. After 6 rounds, I had Kell Brook up 4 rounds to 2. But they were all close rounds. He wasn't dominating. But he was doing what he was supposed to do. He's a champion in his own backyard. He was doing what he was supposed to do those first 6 rounds of that fight. But Spence kept coming forward. I didn't see Spence get hurt not one time in that fight. And Kell Brook can punch. Even after the fight, Spence said that Kell Brook can fight. He can hit. He's a big, strong welterweight. But at the end of the day, that man went over there and he broke him down. It's not a lucky fight. I don't look at no punches as being lucky in boxing. I'm sorry. Y'all in there fighting. You know the man's throwing a punch at you. So either you get out the way or you take the hit or you hit back. No lucky punches. He bust that man's eye socket open. Then the man went on and said, Triple G softened him up. Come on, man. That's not even the same eye that Triple G damaged. It's the other eye that Triple G damaged. Give that man his props. He went over there and he stopped the champion. A champion that beat up a rough, rugged, he didn't beat him up, but he beat a rough, rugged Sean Porter, who's at the top of the welterweight division. You got Thurman, you got Brook, you got Porter, you got Garcia. Those are probably the top guys other than Spence at 147, but 147 is loaded, you know. And also, for the people speaking on Bud moving up to 147 and taking over, that man ain't proved nothing yet at 147. What he did was he beat up everybody at 140, you know, which is a relatively, in my opinion, weak division. 140 don't have the same names as 147. Let's just be honest with you. Bud doesn't have a household name on his resume. And let me clear one thing up. I'm not a Bud hater. Bud is probably, he's like in my top three favorite fighters out there. You know what I mean? I love Spence. I love Bud. And I like Canelo. You know, those are great fighters to me. But Crawford got to prove himself at 147. He did at 140. Went up there, he cleaned out the whole division. Couldn't nobody touch him. But let's be honest. Look at his resume. His resume has no household names on it. None. I know somebody gonna say, oh, he beat Gamboa. Gamboa really wasn't no household name. Gamboa was a good, small guy. He wasn't a great small guy. But he's a good small guy. He did what he was supposed to do, Crawford. Was supposed to beat him. He's a smaller guy. But in that fight, Bud got rocked a few times by Gamboa. So I'm interested in seeing if Bud can take the power at 147 and if he can handle that weight at 147. These are questions that we don't know yet. Now, it's obvious that his skill set is off the chain. You can switch from orthodox to southpaw. You know, he's got a meanness about him, as Max Kellerman says. You know, he's hungry, he's young, he's strong, he's well coached. He got all the tools. He can box, use the ring. He can mix it up with you. He can bang it out with you, all of that. We know he can do all of that at 140. We don't know at 147 yet. He's getting in there with Jeff Horn, a rough, rugged dude that don't care nothing about getting hit. If his power don't get to Jeff, then what's he going to do? He's going to have to outbox Jeff. You know, if he gets hit by Jeff, who can hit? Jeff Horn can punch. If he gets hit by Jeff Horn, how's he going to take that power at 147? So let's not be so quick to jump on the Bud bandwagon at 147. Yes, I want to see super fights with him, Thurman, Spence, and all those guys. But he got to prove that he's on that level yet. I can't just hand it to him right now. You know, I'm not willing to do that. I wouldn't even do my guy like that. I'm going to be a fair player here. He's one of my favorite top three fighters in the world. I want him to go out there and take care of business against Horn. And then I would like to see him fight a second-tier welterweight. Let's not forget, the welterweight division is loaded. The best division in boxing, in my opinion. You got Spence, Thurman, Porter, Garcia. You got guys like Amir Khan. You got Kell Brook if he stays at division. You got Victor Ortiz, you know, who's still a relative out here. Devin Alexander making that comeback. That should be a decent fight. You got the old school heads like Andre Berto. I mean, the welterweight division, 147, is deep. A bunch of champions and ex-champions, the guys that's been there before in that division. It's way, way more crucial than 140, which Bud came out of. Bud has no household names on his resume, but he can get them in 147, but he needs to take his time. If he can handle his business against Jeff Horn and then come out there and fight a second-tier welterweight, somebody like a Berto or Ortiz or something like that, the winner of the Ortiz, or maybe a Jesse Vargas, you know, somebody that's been there, you know, but not actually at the top right now in that division. If he can get through that second tier, then it's time for the big payday with Thurman, Spence, those type of guys, whatever, you know. But I'm looking forward to some great fights in 19 and 20 with all these cats at 147. Even Lucas Matisse going up to 147, I heard. Another banger. I mean, it should be interesting. But tonight's fight, you know, I got Spence, like I said, 8 rounds, doing his thing, taking out Lamont Peterson, who ain't no slouch, you know. I mean, Lamont, hey, he's going to fight hard, he's going to come at you. You know, Hunter and them guys out there, they got him on one in D.C., training with him. You know, his brother's on the undercard. You know, it should be an interesting night. Like I said, Lamont, he's a good fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter, but I think he's a really, really good fighter. You know, he can do it all. He can fight on the inside, fight on the outside, go to the body, throw combinations. He's got a good beard on him. You know, I didn't like him in that Matisse fight. I don't know what was going on there. But in the Garcia fight, I thought he won that fight. Um, he beat up Garcia late in that fight. I ain't never seen Garcia get beat up, but he beat up Danny Garcia the last 5 rounds of that fight and won the fight, in my opinion. Yeah, Garcia won the early rounds, but he was just tapping and moving. You know, he couldn't catch Lamont because Lamont was doing a little bit too much moving. That might have cost him in that fight, but I still gave him the fight. He had control. He owned the ring that fight, even in the beginning when he was using his movement. He owned the ring then because Danny couldn't really get to him. And then in the late rounds, he decided, you know what? I don't need to move no more. I'm going to bang it out with this guy. And he beat Danny up, you know. Um, but then you look at a fight like Amir Khan, and, I think they pulled a little something to try to get him a victory at home. Then they talk about the drugs and all that type of stuff, whatever, with all of that. Lamont Peterson is one of my guys. I got mad love and respect for him. I hope he does well tonight. But I don't see him getting past 8 rounds against that young, hungry lion, beast, monster. Like I said, whatever you want to call him, in Errol Spence, grinder. He's got that tough, that southern draw. Always talking about true grit. I just got that true grit. And I think that's what he's going to have tonight, that true grit. Willing to take on all comers and break them down. I love how he's calling out Keith Thurman and Garcia. But let's be real, EJ. You got to let Thurman come back from his injury. You can't expect for him to come right back from his injury and just take a fight with you. That would be a dumb. I mean, that would be a mistake, and you know it, and I know it. But your job is to talk the fight up and put it out there. So I do understand that. We as boxing heads understand that. But that man's got to get a fight under his belt, and then y'all can make that happen. I think the Thurman fight will be very, very interesting. I say that because I think physically wise, Spence just goes out there and eats him up. But in terms of up here, if you listen to Keith Thurman talk, listen to his interviews, watch his interviews and stuff like that, you'll see the guy's very articulate. He knows his boxing game. He's not going to just get out there with Errol Spence. It's going to be very well thought out and strategic planning on his behalf. They're going to have a game plan. He always speaks highly on game plans, and that's what they're going to have. They're going to have a serious game plan for Errol Spence, and Errol Spence got to come in there with that. He can't just come in there saying, I'm just going to walk through this guy like he's been doing everybody else. He's got to come in there with a game plan, to stop this cat. And I believe he will. I believe that when the dust is clear, Errol Spence is going to be sitting on top of the division. But he's got to get through guys like Thurman. And then he's got to take on guys like Crawford. If Crawford pans out and does his thing, handles his business, we look for some great fights in 19 and 20. But that's it, you guys. I just wanted to speak on that a little bit. Errol Spence, 8-round stoppage tonight against one of my guys, old school veteran, Lamont Peterson. Tune in. It should be a good one. All right, y'all. Peace.